Years of lower wages. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I thought we'd have a look at an article from news.com.au discussing lower wages. And as always, I have my stein of coffee, but you may see behind me over my shoulder, my old espresso machine is back and kicking. Thanks to a viewer guilting me into getting my grinder working, I've now gone through the delight of having to get the grind time right, the espresso coffee, I need to get it at the right time, and all these finicky things I have to work with. But because of that, I now have a stein of espresso with a nice creme on my milk. So let's have a go. Not bad, not bad, not very good. I need to adjust some of the beans, I think. It's been a while since I've had espresso, so it's a whole art form. These machines, when you start getting into the coffee snobbery, it's a lot more work than chucking a bit of instant in a pot and some boiling water. So we'll have to see. Maybe I'll do some bean reviews. Anyway, let's have a look at this article, because this is something I've been warning about for some time. And you'll have people come in the comments, Florian, oh, you idiot, yada, yada, yada. You'll have Labour worried about workers losing their money in retirement, all this fear tactic, which really shows, well, it shows two things. It shows, one, that people don't understand what it's like to employ someone in a business. And two, I put the question out there, does Labour want to keep people poor? Do they want to keep you poor? Do they want to keep you from having financial independence? Yeah, the question I put out there. There's certain segments of the community that they think need to be taken care of. Some of their policies are deemed quite sexist and discriminatory. And that alone is enough for me to argue that they've lost their way in many ways. Nonetheless, let's have a look at this. Workers could face years of lower wages. Well, we're used to it, aren't we? Look at this chart from the RBA, the wage price growth. I mean, there you go, guys. Their forecasts have fallen over it repeatedly. And these are the masters that are managing our economy, that are artificially influencing parts of the market. They're intervening in it for the good of all of us. Do you think it seems to be working? Australian workers could face years of lower wages in the post-pandemic economy, according to confidential Treasury report. Australian workers face years of lower wages if the legislated increase to superannuation in the post-pandemic proceeds, according to a confidential 650-page Treasury report. I mean, you've got to realize, when you are, when you hire someone, and this is the rule of thumb that we were taught at university, when you charge, you need to set hourly rates for people to charge them out, or when you calculate your fees on jobs. And say you've got $90 that they're charged out. Now, the rule of that is a third of that should be their cost of their employees. So let's just say $30, which is their superannuation, includes their holiday time, includes their leave loading, everything. Then another $30 of that, another third, is your overheads. That's the cost of having the equipment for this employer, having the power for their workstation, having the software they need, and their share of the office space and all of the amenities and costs, the overheads, and even the staff, the time from the staff that aren't actually productive. So all the back of house admin or IT support staff, a portion of that needs to be charged to that charge out rate for the actual person that's producing something. And then a third, is meant to be your profit. I'm going to have another shot at that. Just think on that. And, well, there you go. That's why there's such an incentive to reduce costs. And that's why some people get miffed when they're thinking, oh, why am I getting charged out at $90 when I'm only getting paid 30 or so, whatever it is. Why am I getting charged out $100 or $200 when I'm only getting paid $70 or something like that? It just shows a lack of understanding. And often, when people will jump ship and start their own business, reality hits them really hard. It hits them really hard, all the costs that are associated with that. And one part of that, the portion that's for the employee, that's superannuation. You don't differentiate it. It all goes in the same burden of employing staff. It's part of their burden costs. It's one thing why with my younger staff, I would tell them, one of the advantage of seeing your super You know, every time you log into your bank or whatever, having it in there, it means you can see it. You know you're getting paid. You know you're receiving it every time you get it. Because there's so many stories of people that, you know, I've no friends who never got any super for years. For years. Now, apparently, one-touch payroll will fix all that, and the governments here in Queensland are going to legislate it's a jailable offence. You know, well, what if you miss your super payments for 4 quarters if you're paid late, and you just can't keep going? And people push the boundary in their business. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should just fire that person, but they like the staff member, so they want to keep them on. This is the problem of when you've got forced savings and you've got other parties adulting for you, where the state argues that you are not capable of doing your own savings. I honestly think they realize people are very well capable of managing their own money. I'm sure a lot of people aren't, but majority of us would be. With a little bit of education. A couple of hours of watching Dave Ramsey on YouTube and you'll be sorted. I think it's because they want to keep that money in super because so many people are making money off your money. Nonetheless, if the super contribution goes up and people are paid above the award, what they'll usually do is they'll adjust your package, because that third that they've assigned as their employee costs, if they put that up, they need to put everything else up. You know, their overheads will go up, and also their profit should go up, or it will be less competitive. Otherwise, it just gets getting chipped away at the top. And there's some idiots out there, and I'm using that term. I know it's a motive, but there's some idiots that even argue against businesses making any profit. So they don't think there should even be a risk reward. I don't understand. The only way I can rationalize thinking like that is when people have never actually taken on any risk and have never been rewarded. What am I doing? I'm slurring right now. Maybe I'm having a stroke. I need a coffee. So let's keep going. Prime Minister Scott Morrison will be handed more ammunition to freeze or scrap the scheduled legislated increase to the superannuation guarantee to 12% in the new report that warns workers are facing a trade-off with lower wages if employers are forced to increase super. The superannuation guarantee is set to increase to 10% in July 2021 before rising to 12% in 2025. Just think about that. That's 12% of your money, that's set aside in these businesses that you work for, that you're not allowed to touch until you're old and decrepit. You know, the government says, nope, you're going to be useless when you're old. You have to put that money aside, and we're telling you how to do it, and we're forcing you to do it. News.com.au has confirmed the Treasury report, which has been completed and handed to Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, does not offer any formal recommendations or retirement income policy, but repeatedly raises concerns over the trade-off between higher super and lower wages. Yes. Now, this seems like common sense to me. Is this common sense, everyone? Do people understand what's going on here? You know, what if all of a sudden the superannuation guarantee was just set to 5% for the next 10 years, and then everyone got an instant pay rise, or everyone got access to that money paid directly to them? Do you think that would have a benefit for the economy? Do you think people would appreciate that, actually having access to their money? We can see people have no confidence in super. Why do you think everyone just got their money out there while they could? They got it while they could. Some of them were going, you know what, I'll probably be dead then. My quality of life may not be as good. I'll take it now. Others want to just have control of it, to have an emergency reserve, because they've seen how drastically, for the first time in their lives, how drastically everything can fall apart. You know, Grattan Institute economist Brendan Coates said it was clear that increasing super now would cost workers wages increases. While employers might hand over the check for super, workers ultimately pay for almost all of it through lower wages, he told news.com.au. It's the workers' money. It's part of your package. That's it. And the state says a certain portion of your package needs to get funneled to the super funds. Don't think of it as employers' money. Think of it as part of your salary that is being forced to go to superannuation. And the Reserve Bank agrees. It's forecasting wage growth to be slower from next year than if compulsory super wasn't rising. Well, I mean, do we even trust the Reserve Bank? I guess, with wage growth. I mean, they're good at getting it wrong. So maybe it'll go up. Maybe it'll go up. I doubt it. Our work shows that 80% of the cost of super comes via lower wages within 2 to 3 years, and the long-term impact could be as high as 100%. That's what international studies of similar schemes typically find. Well, workers are free to increase voluntary contributions to super. Yeah, okay. Mr. Code said compulsory super shouldn't rise, but it could force Australians to save for a higher living standard in retirement than they would have while working, which is simply a recipe for larger inheritances. And then you know what they'll do? They'll bring in an inheritance tax. That's what they'll do. That'll be the end game. They'll force people to put all their money into super, and then you kick it off before you can even spend it all. Then they'll tax it as it goes to your children. Oh, wait a minute. No, most people aren't even having children nowadays, so it'll just go to the property trust or the government. They'll say, oh, they didn't have a will. Oh, we don't agree with this. We're taking it all. Oh, they didn't claim it in 3 months after a death certificate gone. I'm being facetious, but maybe I'm not. Maybe that's what'll happen. But he also highlighted another reason why the Treasurer may be attracted to the idea. It would force workers to pay more tax because super contributions are taxed at a concessional rate. Well, then just reduce tax. Why should it? Well, here we go. What about we reduce superannuation contributions by 5%, down to 5% for a period of time, and then that tax that they wouldn't have paid anyway at a concessional rate, that's passed on to that 5% of your income. Sure, it'll be more complicated, but that'll be more money going around the economy, more people able to access their money, more people to meet their home loan repayments, more people to not have to depend on the government. We couldn't have that, could we? It wouldn't make any difference to the government bottom dollar. They're not getting the money anyway. Raising compulsory super would cost the budget $2 billion a year in foregone tax, which would vastly exceed any savings from less spending on pensions for decades to come, Mr. Coates said. The Morrison government moves to scrap the increase with no guarantee that the promised increase in super will be paid to workers in higher wages. Industry Super Australia has slammed the proposal to allow low-income workers to opt out, saying it would leave workers paying higher taxes now and having lower retirement incomes in the future. But how many people have nothing in their super? Close to nothing. You know, so little that it'll just get frittered away on one car or one new thing, and then they'll be on the pension. It'd be better for people to own their own house, have some stability there. For an average 30-year-old couple working full-time, cutting the superannuation increase will deprive them of up to $200,000 in super by the time they retire. During retirement, they would lose up to 20% of their income, between $7,000 to $10,000 a year, the ISA said. But if they deploy that money, what's the opportunity cost of locking up that money in superannuation, as opposed to other forms of investment that they could put it in? What about the reduced stress from being debt-free for a longer period in their life? What about the health costs that would consider? This is the problem when people intervene in your lives. There are all these unknowns that they're not measuring. They're just looking at these simple sums. They're not measuring all the unknowns. What would you rather, have more super or have 20 years less on your mortgage? More than 2.5 million Australians have accessed the government's early release of super scheme, and at least 560,000 Australians have emptied their super accounts, forcing them to start saving for retirement again. Well, there you go. It means they had nothing in there. They had 20 grand. Below 20 grand. The only way to deliver a dignified retirement is to stick to the legislated increase to the super rate at 12%, it said. No, that's not the only way. The only way to deliver a dignified retirement is for people to realize that it is their individual responsibility. And their life is going to work out depending on their actions. Sure, life isn't fair. Sure, there are going to be challenges that we all have to face. But, forcing 10 to 12% of your money locked away where other parties charge you a fee to manage it for you isn't really the best way to do it. The Treasury report also canvasses the gender gap within super and how to help women improve their retirement income strategy. I thought women's retirement income strategy was getting married as a couple and it all goes into one kitty. It examined the role of the family home in planning for retirement and considers the life quality of aged pensioners who own their own home and who are forced to rent on a fixed and those who are forced to rent on a fixed income. There you go, there's the difference. The warnings are set to spark a bitter new battle over superannuation policy, with Liberal backbenchers calling on the Prime Minister to scrap the planned increases. One option being pushed among Liberal backbenchers is allowing part-time, casual and low-income workers to opt out of super and secure wage increases of up to $60 a week. But the Treasury review makes no recommendations on these proposals. I like that idea. I think super should be voluntary. It should be voluntary. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will fritter away, but they're going to anyway. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will, prefer to have control of their own money, prefer to invest it in their own things, prefer to use this resource to improve the quality of their life now when they're younger. Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg said he looked forward to the release of the report and the debate it was set to unleash over the superannuation guarantee. Superannuation is deferred wages. It's part of your wages. Australia is in an environment where they want to create more jobs. Super is clearly a cost of employment. Yes. Yes. Don't people understand that? I'm getting people in the comments. Some of them are saying it's not even your wages. It's the employer's contribution. They're treating it like some other party's money. I guess that's just the mentality. The mentality of being taken care of. The mentality of depending on others. Fundamentally, that's what I think the difference is in the ideological approaches of the different aspects of politics. You've got those that are leaning towards, authoritarian rulers caring for you. And you've got those that are cynical and skeptical and just don't trust that, afraid of that. What do you think? Your super is part of your pay you get. My preferred policy option here is we also allow people to access it for the first home deposit. I've had constituents write to me saying this is the only chance they have of getting into the housing market. We all know the best way to avoid poverty in retirement is to own your own home. The Prime Minister's official policy position is that he has no plans to dump the superannuation guarantee, that governments want percentages of wages employers must pay away in compulsory superannuation payments. But Mr. Morrison has moved this week to appoint a champion of super reform to the commission that is working on proposals to boost employment. Workers would secure a pay rise instead of a superannuation increase under a plan commissioned by the man Scott Morrison has handpicked for his commission. Former union boss Paul Howes, who briefly rose to fame in Australia during the leadership switch from Rudd to Gillard as a self-described faceless man, has been appointed to the revamped commission to help lead the economic recovery. Mr. Howes has repeatedly called for a rethink for superannuation policy, including allowing lower-income workers to opt out in 2017. Even the most ardent superannuation proponent would appreciate what a big deal it is to compulsorily quarantine some wages, he wrote. There's still the question of whether that supplement is more useful in retirement than money would have been over the course of a cash-strapped working life. So what do you think, everyone? This will certainly lead to some debate. It will certainly lead to some debate. I would argue for making the entire system voluntary and then forcing the superannuation companies to compete for your investment like any other. What do you think, everyone? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Do you think superannuation is part of your wages, or is it some magic fairy dust that other people manage for you? And were you keen to get your hands on it? How many of you took it out and put it straight into silver or gold? Let us know in the comments. Take care, guys. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or support us via PayPal. Take care. I'll see you next time.